if reposted.
Today, we're joined by a friend of the show and North Carolina resident, Brandon Doble. He's the host of the show, How I Got That Way. You can find him on Instagram and Twitter at How I Got That Way. I'm excited to hear what you think about this. Quote, I couldn't find who it's credited to, but it is this. Some people think that to be strong is to never feel pain. In reality, the strongest people are the ones who feel it, understand it, and accept it. I cry in a sappy Subaru commercial. Does that make me strong?
I don't know. I think this quote can be, I think when you first read it, you're like, oh, pain, like I'm a tough guy. I don't feel pain. But actually, I think it's referring to emotional pain. Yeah. And I think that we're all far enough long into the 21st centuries to realize that if you stuff all your pain down in, you end up an alcoholic with cancer. So, you know, I mean, letting it out, I think it's good. Cry at a Subaru commercial. Cry whenever you can. I mean, watch Titanic and cry. You guys gave a reference to Titanic the other day on the show, and I got a little teary, a little misty when I thought about those ladies passing up dessert. I'm just saying.
So you say that so passively, like, of course you need to deal with your pain and move on. So then why don't most people do that, Brandon?
Because men are basically raised to not show pain. Because showing pain in a Western society is seen as weakness. Look at our president right now. He's got the Rona. And he literally can't even admit that he's got the Rona, so he's got to go out and show how tough he is. And it's not bothering him. I'm like, bro, you could be dying. This is serious business. Like, no matter what you think about his politics, the fact that he's got to somehow show this tough guy image, that's built into all. I mean, I just think societally that's where we are. And hopefully we're a little bit further down the road than that. But
I view you as a worldly person, and you've been in a lot of different places. Do you think this has anything to do with your geography? As being someone from Texas playing football, I definitely think this was ingrained with who I was. It's like a bigger guy and maybe less pressure on a guy from Texas that played chess full time. Like, what do you think about like how you're brought up or how you physically present to the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think clearly it's cultural and societal. Whatever that word is. You know, I think that your family dynamics play a big part in it. Like if your dad's a tough guy, don't show pain. I mean, I think in my entire life, I saw my dad cry once, and that was on my brother's deathbed. That's the only time I ever saw him cry. I'm like, bro, dude, you got to cry more. That's crazy. You can be 75 years old, and that's the only time I've ever seen you cry. I mean, and so I think if you're raised with that idea, you know, Andrew playing football, Larry, you play football. Coaches all tell you, come on, suck it up, get in there. It's like, well, no, actually, it really hurts that I just shattered my femur, and I might let out a little tear because it hurts. Little kids have no problem crying. Little boys have no problem crying. They are taught not to cry.
I'd just like to double down on an event you talked about. Your brother passed away, who's your best friend, like one of the best, from what I hear, one of the greatest people that ever lived. Yeah, did you specifically have to deal with the pain of losing him, and had you worked through it, or have you worked through it?
Oh, dude, every day. Every single day. I always think about him every day because it's like a part of my life was taken away. I mean, he was truly the greatest guy. I mean, I get choked up right now thinking about it. It's so hard. I mean, so I think that if you don't I have a great mentor who talks about the fact, he said this, he's like 86 now. And he's like, Americans do birthdays and weddings and births. They do them great, but they do death horribly. We just do not do death well. Well, guess what? We're all going to die. So we need to figure out a better way to deal with it. And he gave me a lot of help along the grieving process. I think that's a whole nother part of this thing, but people are like, yeah, your best friend just died, or your dad died, or your mom died. It's like, oh, suck it up for a week. I mean, the Jews have sit Shiva for a week because there's a process to grieving. And that's very formulaic because it's important to grieve.
And I just want to pick up on that. When I read this quote, I think you can't do it by yourself. Like, I really feel like you just said your mentor and people in Shiva. One of the darkest parts of my life was after I had my second kid. I was overwhelmed. I had 2 jobs. I was like completely like a broken mess. And I went to our guys group and I came in and I was like complaining that I couldn't work out. And you guys literally punched me in the nuts, but in a great way to tell me that with some positivity, like it's not as bad as you think it is. And my point of that is, I think sometimes when you're in a bad place, you can't come out by yourself.
I want to jump in.
It's more challenging.
I'd like to jump in and say that people listening to the show, Brandon and Larry, are very liberal with the term literally. And I don't think you got punched in the nuts, did you?
I got feedback. Yeah.
But Larry loves to talk about getting punched in the nuts. Like somehow that's a good thing to do. I actually have come around to the idea that that it's the velvet glove that you need at times, right? I mean, you just had to have people that say, hey, listen, we care about you,
Yeah.
and your life's not going to be over. And that's what I think that's what you're getting at by having people around you. It's like, I could tell you honestly, my last month has been truly one of top 5 most stressful months of my life. Really, really hard. And luckily we have this great community around us that's been super helpful. They call up, hey, you guys need help. And I haven't needed help with like move, whatever, but it's been nice just to know that you can reach out to people. So I think that's part of it. I think it's all tied together. I really do.
Yeah, and there's also strength in being able to ask for help or being able to lean on your community as opposed to trying to shoulder it yourself. Like you said, it's just going to sit on you and just gnaw at the back of you, and you can't really let it go unless you're open.
Well, can I say one more thing too about that, Andrew? Because it's funny. I think that at least I was raised with like, you gotta man up. I mean, I always heard that term. You gotta man up and you gotta take care of your business. So you gotta learn how to do everything. And this podcast world is a little bit of example. You've been doing this for a while. So I'll call you up every once in a while and say, hey, what do you do about X, Y, and Z? And, obviously we're friends. So I feel like I can do that. But I think maybe 10 years ago, I would have not done that. I think I would have been like, oh, I'll just go figure this out on my own. Well, that's not healthy either. And I think that goes back into the whole idea of pain, right? That you think, oh, I've got to be able to do everything on my own. And if I can't, I'm a weak person. Well, that's baloney. It's just not true.
The last thing I would say about pain too is once you come through the other side, if you get fortunate to do that, you're not the same person. Like you're definitely not the same person you were after your brother passed away.
No. Andrew, is it hard for you to take Larry seriously with those bug goggles? Because I'm listening to him hearing these words, and on the those are the people that aren't watching this can't tell, but Larry's wearing bug goggles. And so when he's talking about grieving and pain, it's something, I don't know. It's a little challenging. I'm not going to lie.
It takes something, it grows on you. I've accepted it as the last part of this quote, and I just don't even notice what he does anymore. But we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's like you have to allow yourself to realize that you're a different person on the other side of feeling pain, and that's the way that you're going to be able to, maybe that's the final step of getting through it.
Yeah, good point.
Thank you. Well, if you'd like to punch Larry in the nuts, please reach out. You can find us at Reposted Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm Andrew Keller for Asheville, North Carolina resident Brandon saying, thanks for stopping by.